Hi everyone. Today Salesforce Lightning Day 11. Let's see what are we going to learn. So yesterday, what did we learn? Yesterday, what was the things that we have learned it?
Dynamic output expression, Lightning input checkbox, conditional expression in
Conditional express.
best practices for conditional markup, conflict get
JavaScript
method, set method, when to use JavaScript variables, declaration rule, JavaScript type conversions and conversion string to numbers.
Right. So especially we have learned the conditional expression, component get, component set. Right. So today we'll see. Let me go to the directly client requirement. So let's take one of the requirement. So let's assume the requirement is right now we have to implement a Lightning component to find largest number and smallest number out of 3 inputs. Right, so 3 input fields and there should be 2 buttons on the component. There should be 2 buttons on the component and one is calculate button, another one clear button. So I'll give you 5-10 minutes. Go ahead and implement a component which will find out the largest number and smallest number. So basically I have 3 fields. So this is one field, this is second one. And this is the third one. So we have 3 inputs. This is the first number. And the second number. And the third number. Okay. So on this same page, on this Lightning card, I have 2 buttons, which is a calculate button and clear button. This is a calculate button and this is a clear button. So when I click on a calculate button, the output should be whichever the highest number is there, the highest number should be printed. For example, if I enter here 75 and this is 57 and this is 6, what are the number among these 3? If I select this calculate button, it should print me the greatest number. First implement this, then we'll talk about the smallest. So basically we need to find out the greatest number. If I click on this calculate button, it has to find out what is the highest number among these 3 and print that highest number at the bottom. You have 10 minutes to implement using the Lightning component. So here it is. What is the requirement? What is the requirement right now we have? Implement Lightning component to find largest number among 3 fields, right? So this is the requirement. In this requirement, what do we need to implement on the user interface? What do we need on the UI?
You have input text and 2 buttons.
3 input text 2 buttons. Right? So this is the button. When we click on a calculate greater number, it should give me the highest number, the largest number. When I click on a clear, it should clear all the values. This is my requirement. So in real time, we get like this. So you will have a user story. In Jira, you will have a user story. Let's suppose user story number is US 001. So this is the user story. As soon as you open, you will see the subject. What is the subject of the story? And then you will see the description. Description. Subject is like implement Lightning component. Okay, implement custom Lightning component. This is the description. And then below you will have an acceptance criteria. This acceptance criteria for QA team, also for the development team. Once we implement, what all things do we need to cross-verify? So what is the output of this user story? The first thing is that there should be a 3 input text. Input text on Lightning card. And the second one, 2 buttons. 2 buttons in action place, which is a standard Salesforce. What are the buttons it is displaying? It should be displayed. Now, the third criteria is on clicking on calculate button. Calculate button should display highest number. And the fourth acceptance criteria is on clicking on clear button. It should clear all the data in all fields, all input fields. So this is how your story will be in the real time. This is how your story, user story number, a requirement, there will be a subject and the description and the acceptance criteria, right? Now you need to understand what is the description says and what is the outcome of the user story. Acceptance criteria for developer as well as QA. For QA, what he need to test it once the developer implement the story, what QA has to test it. So that is the acceptance criteria. Now, in real time, when this story comes to you, the first thing is that you need to give a story point. There is an option called story point. You have to give a how much time do you take it in order to implement. Story point is nothing but usually in most of the companies, one story point is nothing but 6 hours. That means in one day. Few companies it consider as 8 hours. So one story point, that means within one day I can complete it. Or else 3 story points, or else 5 story points, all the odd numbers. Story points will be everything odd numbers. So 3 story point, in a sense, you are going to take 3 days because one story point is nothing but one day, which is 8 hours. So company is working for 8 hours, then 8 hours. If the employee is working for 6 hours, then one day 6 hours. So 3 story point is nothing but it is 3 days you are going to take to implement. If you say five story points, that means you are going to take 5 days, which is a 1 week of time. Okay, so if you go more than this, then there is a questions. Why are you thinking that it is a more than that? Or why are you thinking it is a 1 week time? So the questions can come up. So we have to answer what we are thinking, why it is going to take 1 week of time in order to implement. Then based on this, so first story point get assigned, then it will be assigned to you. Assigned, there is a field called assigned. So assigned, whoever is the user, whoever is the developer. So it will be assigned to developer. So there will be a developer name. So this is how you will get it in the real time. Now, as soon as you receive a story, okay, you have given the story point, perfectly fine. Then you have to start it from today onwards. Because today morning the story points has given and it is assigned to you. When you receive a story, first thing you divide your any requirement, divide it into the high level requirement and then low level requirement. Divide any requirement into 2 pieces for you to understand. What is the high level requirement here? High level requirement where it says implement custom lightning component to find out the largest number. This is the high level requirement. Okay. So coming to the low level requirement, when we say low level requirement is nothing but where individual developer can understand. That means you have to divide this story into pieces. Now for this here, low level requirement is need to implement three input, 3 lightning input fields. And the second low level requirement is need to implement 2 buttons. Now, this is need to implement again 1.1. What are the 3 lightning inputs? What are the fields that they have? What is the label name that they are saying? And how much length is it should be accepted? So for example, they said that implement 3 lightning inputs. What is the label name? So label name has to be enter, first name, first number, and length of this. They have not mentioned in the requirement, so there is no restriction on the length. So that is one. Second one, enter. They are saying enter second number. So second field label is enter second number. Length, is there any specific? They have not mentioned any specific. No. Next one, enter the last number. So they need a label name as enter last number. Do they have mentioned anything? No, they have not mentioned. So length is not there. No. And second one, is there any alignment? Alignment, is there any alignment? So do I need to display first number first or a later number, last number as a second? What is the sequence of displaying the values? So everything we have to confirm, align. So on this, again, one more point is, do they need any icon? Because we have to include the lightning card. If we have to include the lightning card, do they want any lightning card? So that is question to the VA. If they says that yes, they need some icon, they wanted to display whenever we open the model or whenever we open the lightning card, they need an icon. Okay. Perfect. And then this is at the, all these options are done. Now second button. Second, need to implement two buttons. What is the name of button? First one is calculate button. And the second one is clear. Now, did they mention any styling or anything? So if they have mentioned any styling like a brand, similar like a Salesforce or anything, if they have mentioned, we have to take it up the style. Now, 2.1.1, when we click on a calculate button, what should happen? As soon as I click on a calculate button, capture, first thing is call JavaScript controller. JavaScript controller. Call the JavaScript controller. Second point. Capture 3 input fields. Capture 3 input fields. And then 1.3. Compare value between each one. That means I need to compare the value. So for example, first number, I need to compare it with second number, and I need to compare it with last number. Again, second number, I need to compare it with first number and then last number. Again, I need to compare the last number with first number and then second number. So after comparing all this, then I have to display the output. That means I need to store the final output to the, I need to store the final output to another attribute called let's assume that final result. Okay, final result. So I need to store that. That means I need to have an attribute. So did I create an attribute here? I have not created. So in this case, I need 4 attributes. First one is to store the first number. And second one is to store the second number. And then I need another attribute to store the last number. And finally, I need one more attribute, which is called final result. Final result. Declare the attributes. Okay, so now I'm storing that, and once it is done, what we have to display the output. Display output final result on component. On component, this is done. So need to implement 2 buttons, one of the button, these all the logic needs to be explained. This is low level requirement. I'm dividing the requirement into the understandable format. Now, second one, clear button. So when they say clear button, what is that means? So as soon as I click on that button, I need to clear values in all the input fields. I need to clear all the input fields. Now this is what low level requirement. So I need to implement these many steps. So 26 steps are there. So 26 steps I need to implement it.
Swapna,
Yeah.
usually the user story, it will be written, it will be given to us by the BA, right? They will write everything, they will give us, or we have to write the story.
Sometimes acceptance criteria BA cannot say, we have to write it. If BA is perfect, then they will write the acceptance criteria. But the subject description has to be written by the BA. Or else if BA is not writing, technical architect has to be written this.
Okay.
But high level requirement, low level requirement, you need to divide this. Because we need to understand before I implement it, what are the steps do I need to follow?
No, but this low level and this one, this requirement, we don't write it in the Jira, right? This is for our understanding, right?
You can write it in the Jira also, so that everybody get to know. In Jira, we have a comments, you can write it. So this is my understanding, high level requirement and the low level requirement. So I'll be planning to implement these all steps. If you are technical architect, for example, he saw your comments and once he saw the comments, okay, if anything is wrong, your understanding and the requirement is different. So then he will correct it. So you are thinking to implement this way, but the requirement says that there is some small change in your understanding. So he can make a change on that.
Okay.
What is that Jira, ma'am?
Jira is a tool which I have shown you 2 days back or 3 days back, where we have all the user stories will be there. I think I have already shown you. So there is a Jira, which is for all the stories will be there. Stories in a sense, what you need to work on it. So Confluence page is where you will documenting the end of your implementation. End of your implementation, you will be documenting in the Confluence. And whereas Jira is nothing but all the stories sits into the Jira. Most of the companies use the Jira stories. Only few companies use the ServiceNow. There is another software called ServiceNow. So there are few companies who are still using the ServiceNow, but most of the companies uses the Jira. Okay, in Jira stories, you will see the requirement, subject, description, what is the acceptance criteria. If you wanted to attach anything, you can attach to the story. And every story will have a story points. Once it is assigned to you, make sure before implementing, write down your low level requirement in the Jira. Basically add the comments, low level understanding or low level requirement. Divide it very clearly so that if anybody reads your comments, if BA also reading it, in case if they find it, your understanding is incorrect, immediately they will correct it before your implementation. Right? So till this point clear, low level requirement, high level requirement.
Then low level, low level requirement, acceptance is required. Business.
Acceptance criteria is a little different. Acceptance criteria is once it is implemented, what to test it. What are the things that I should need to cross verify in the UI?
So basically unit testing.
Yeah, unit testing steps. Low level requirement is for the developers, whoever is implementing the whoever is developing it, based on the requirement. So these are the steps I'm understanding. I need to implement these all. So this is my understanding. Basically, it's your understanding of the low level. You have to start practicing it, because if you are tomorrow become a technical architect or a technical lead, you will be doing these things. Whenever you get a user story, even user story also, when we have an initial conversation with the clients, we have a high level requirement and low level requirement analysis before it is coming to the development. If you start doing it from now, instead of low level requirement, you can say low level understanding technical. So if you start doing it tomorrow, it will be easy for you when you become a technical architect or technical lead. It will be easy for you to write down the documentation. And this will give the clarity. Okay, I have a clarity. First step is this attribute. Second step is 3 inputs I need to create it. And then I need to check the align, and then I need to check the icon. This is my entire first step. And the second step is, so 2 buttons, but what will happen on the calculate? So these all steps needs to be implemented. Perfect, clear. These all steps needs to be implemented. Perfect. So what will happen once we got a clarity in our mind, it will be easy for you implementation. Until unless you not get the clarity. Right now I'm drawing it here. That's the reason you are getting the clarity. But in real time, nobody will draw and tell you that this is what you have to implement. They will not give you this kind of a screenshot or anything. They will simply give you the requirement, and which is very confusing. They will not give you in this detailed description. So what will happen is, in order to make your understanding clarity, to draw yourself in the mind, so you have to go for the low level requirement understanding. And if you want, you can draw it and attach it here in the Jira comments, so that you will be having a clarity. Sometimes what happens is, as I am implementing this, initially I'll start it very perfect. Starting will be very smooth, perfect. But after reaching some point of the development, I'll be having a question to myself itself. So rather than asking a question in between the development, note down all the points at the low level requirement, so that you will be start thinking before putting your hands on the coding. You will be start thinking, assuming it, how I'll be doing the step-by-step implementation. So while writing the low level requirement, if you got any questions, you can ask during that time. But if you ask in between the development, then what will happen? It might go risk in a sense. There are a lot of questions that might be raised. Why you think, why you started this, or what was the reason that you did not ask a question on the story planning or a grooming, why it came right now. So many questions will come up. So that's the reason every story you have to draw it in your mind, how to implement from the basic to the till the completion. Don't be hurry for the implementation. Coding does not take any time. Coding is a very quick, any person can do the coding. Coding is not at all difficult. Any person, even the kids also can do the coding, because if they know ABC also, they can do the coding. But the thing is that when I'm doing the coding, does I have a clarity on the implementation? Does I have a clarity on this requirement, whatever the client is saying, whatever the BA is saying, do I have a clarity on it? If you have a clarity, go ahead, do it. Coding is just 5 to 10 minutes. If it is not that difficult, if it is not that, in a sense, like it's not too difficult part, maybe it might take 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Okay, if it is not possible after 3 days, that means it is not possible. But you need to get a clarity that what is that I am going to implement it. So that clarity is very important in the real time. Even during the interview, they will give you this kind of a requirement. So what they will tell is, they will give this subject description and give it to you in the chat, or they will share a screen and they will tell us that, okay, this is the problem statement, or this is the issue, or this is the user story. Now, how do you implement this? Right? And one more thing is that during the interview, in case if they have not given the user story, they will just tell that, okay, I need to find out number of contacts in one account. They will just give in verbally. So when they are saying verbally, you please start writing it. Whatever they are saying it. Okay, accounts, she needed accounts and accounts, number of contact. So start typing it so that it will, what will happen when they are speaking, when they are communicating to us verbally, you start writing the question, frame it the question, so that you will also get a clarity what is the question they are asking. What is the question they are asking it. So, and the other person also, they will understand, okay, this person got the clarity what I am asking the question. So it is very important to understand the question before you answer or before you implement a program. So keep the clarification even in the interview also. Okay, so now let's go ahead, implement this. File, new Lightning component, LC underscore. Class assignment. Click on submit. Yes, what do I need to implement right now?
Need to declare for attributes.
Or attribute.
Lightning card.
Aura attributes.
Name is equals to
Name equal to
Name
Name
equals
equal to
F number.
first
F
number.
number. First
Type
number.
is equals to
Type
equal to
integer.
String.
by string. And then
or attribute.
Close.
Self-close tag.
Close the tag.
Attributes or
Close the
attribute.
tag.
Attributes. Spell.
okay, second number, last number, and the result.
Result.
Okay, next.
Lightning card.
Lightning code.
Implement a lightning code.
Input fields.
Okay, lightning card.
Title.
Let's say greater number. And what is the icon? Give me any icon name.
Utility. Colon. Answer.
Utility colon
Answer.
Answer. Okay. Within this,
Lightning input.
lightning input.
Lightning.
Lightning colon input. Value equal to
Value. Label.
Value label.
Label equal to enter first number. Value equal to
value equal to exclamation curly
First number.
bracket
Dot.
V dot F number.
exclamatory v dot first number f number.
so how many input do I need?
3.
4 times.
Oh,
3.
3.
Why 4?
3 is
Yeah. Next, lightning card is done.
result.
Values. Values.
Button.
Ma'am, please change the
Buttons.
values.
Lightning buttons.
Button.
The value we need to change.
Which value?
Input tag value.
Yes number and last number.
Second number, last number.
Okay.
Lightning set attribute.
Like
Aura set
Aura set.
attribute equal to action.
attribute
Actions.
actions.
Lightning button.
Lightning colon input.
Lightning colon button.
Y input.
Button.
Button.
Label.
Label equal to
Plate.
Label equals to
Calculate.
Variant.
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 close brand
On click.
value
On click.
on click equal
Dot.
curly's exclamatory
Handle.
handle calculator calculate
Swapna C dot right.
Yeah, 0. Okay. How many buttons do I need it?
2.
one
Reset button.
Clear.
clear
It's
clear
okay. Then
Result.
result.
In card. Okay.
result is
The result is
Swapna, one question here. Aura set will work with the, outside lightning card. I didn't try, that's why.
okay. You guys are telling me I'm not. Okay, let's see. Is it right or wrong?
I think it won't come because
Let's see
It
that.
is wrong, ma'am. It is
No.
wrong.
Star should be last.
Hmm.
Aura set within the lightning card.
Okay. The result is
result. Dot brackets.
F result.
Dot F
Curly braces, exclamatory
exclamatory
V
V
dot,
dot
F result.
result F result
perfect. Done.
Function we need to implement.
Sorry.
Controller function.
Controller. Yes. But let's check the UI first. Okay, how do I call the component?
C colon
Mm.
C colon LC underscore
Class
class assignment class assignment
Okay, do I need to do anything here?
No. Preview.
Okay. Greater number. How can I adjust this?
Class padding.
class
Adding class.
Yes. Where do I need to write padding class?
Lightning card.
Okay, class. What do I need to write?
We have to go in lightning design system.
Yesterday we have implemented, right?
yes.
Okay, so let's refresh. Perfect. Okay. Now let's go ahead and implement the controller. Yes. Do I need to copy anything from here?
On click. Handle class.
On click.
Handle
Okay.
click.
How many functions do I need?
Two functions.
Two.
One is this and
Handle clear.
Handle clear.
JavaScript is case sensitive. Make sure it is matching with whatever is there. Okay. Now, handle calculate. How do I calculate?
Component
First of all, how do I get the value?
Component dot
dot get.
component
Get.
dot
Component dot.
get
Get.
component dot get b
And-
dot f number.
V dot F number.
Okay.
Use
I
small.
wanted to store this.
Where?
It's a string,
Where?
so we have to.
Where?
We need to do it.
Let's take v1 equal to
Parsing. Ma'am, I'm actually having a doubt over here. Like when we are storing the values in our attribute, we are taking it as an integer, right? Then why need to again do it in
yes,
two parts?
controller converts it. Though we are storing it as an integer, our controller converts it. So by default, it will take it as a string.
Okay.
Swapna, use small letter, I think.
Which small letter?
F number U.
After n.
Okay. And then second number.
S number.
Okay. Now, how do I compare it?
Or if
Not or if, general if will work.
Or if only here on the component level.
okay.
This is a normal JavaScript. In JavaScript, how do we write the if-else condition?
If
Generic if condition.
else.
Inside.
This is how we write it in the JavaScript. If, else if, else. Why I have written else if? Because we have to compare V1 with V2, V3, V2 with V1, V2, V3 with V2,
V1.
V1. So that's the reason I have taken the three if conditions here. Okay. So generic if condition, basic mathematics. I'm not doing anything here. I'm just comparing V1 greater than V2. The first one, I'm taking it as in is V1 is greater than these two. So what I'll do, V1 greater than V2 and V1 greater than V3.
V3.
Now similarly here in the if condition, right now I'm going to take it as a V2 greater than V1 and
v2 greater than v3.
V3.
okay. Then else condition is final V3. If these two are not satisfied, definitely V3 is the one. Right? Now, as soon as I find that V1 is the highest one, V1 is the highest one. Now I wanted to store it into the
Result.
result. How do I store it?
Component dot set F.
Component dot set
Quotation.
V dot,
V dot F result.
v dot f
comma,
V1.
V1.
same.
What if we directly write V dot F result? Like without this component set.
If you don't write this, system will not understand, controller will not understand this. If you write like this, controller will not understand. It will think that it will give you an error. Let's keep that. Let's see that. Okay. So component dot set
quotations. We result.
Result,
V3.
comma, V3. Now let's go ahead and refresh our component. Let's give 34 to 34, 22. Click on calculate. It is giving 234. For example, if I give 343, calculate. What happened here? It is coming the error. First time, why it did not come? Because first time it did not go to this condition. First time it went directly here. So what will happen here is if you don't write v dot component dot set, it will not understand what are the logic is written in the if condition. It doesn't understand that. That's the reason in order to component dot set is given by the Salesforce, because the set method has a logic similar to whatever we have written here. So set method will does, okay, f result equal to v1. So what will happen here when I say component dot set v dot f result? So what does Salesforce do? Salesforce does f result equal to v2. So the backend logic will be like this. But you cannot write here the logic v dot f result. It has to be always component dot set. Otherwise, it will tell that I don't understand the v. What is the v? I don't know. So system will score. Now, how your cursor is getting executed? The first thing cursor is getting executed, all your this component logic gets executed. First UI will be loaded. So first it will load the lightning card, and then it will load all the input fields. Then finally it will load the whatever the buttons are there, and it will whatever the static value is there, it will load. So first your UI will be loaded. Once the UI is loaded, if user has entered some information on the first number, second number, last number, and user is clicking on this button, there is a button called calculate button. So as soon as user click on this button, it goes to the controller. It goes to the controller. It will come back to the controller. It will try to identify which one is the method. There are two methods are here. Which one is the method? Okay, this is the method. Now it will capture the value. Now first it will check if condition. Is this satisfied? No. Then jump on to the else. It will not go here. It will not go inside. It will go to the else condition. If else condition is satisfied, then it will go inside. Otherwise, it will directly jump on to the else condition, and else condition gets executed. Else condition gets executed. Now, let's go here. Let's save this. Control S, refresh. Click on inspect. Go to source. In the source, you will see component. Your component is LC class assignment. In the class assignment, you have this logic. Okay, I'm putting the breakpoint. I'll enter this. Some value here, 67. Okay, now I'll click on calculate. Now what happened here? First it hit the if condition. It hit the if condition. Then I'll click on a step over. When I click on a step over, what happened? Immediately it jumped on else if it did not go to the inside. It did not go to the inside. Then again, I click on step over. Step over is nothing but go step by step. Go step by step. Click on this step over. As soon as I clicked on a step over, it went to the else inside this. And finally, it is setting the value. And if I click on this, it went back to the component, spelling wrong. Let's refresh again. Okay, 55, 6, 44, 3, 4, 5. If condition, step over, else, not matching. Then it went to final else condition, step over, and then finally I'm doing the continue. So as soon as I say continue, it is giving me the highest number. If I say the first one, what will happen if I click on calculate? The first one is satisfied, it will go to the first if condition. So whatever the logic is there inside this if condition, the cursor will go only inside if the condition is satisfied. If the condition is not satisfied, it will jump onto the else condition. If this is not satisfied, then it will go to the next else condition, then it will go inside. In case if it is satisfied, it will just go here. After that, it will not execute this. Whatever this else condition is there, it will not execute the else condition. So step over, gone. All the logic has executed. If I say continue, it is giving it. So 19 to 26 line, it did not execute. 19 to 26 line, it did not execute. Is that clear for everyone? Now, for example, if you want to watch in a sense, I wanted to know what is the V1, V2, V3 values are. So that means I want to watch it. So click on this plus button, say V1. Right now it is invalid, V2, V3. And then finally, I wanted to say F result. Now, these variables I wanted to watch during the execution. I wanted to see how the values are getting changed. So what I'll do is I'll just change this. Click on calculate. See here. V1, 5, V2, 44, V3, 3. And final result not available because it is not yet set. I click on this. Still it is not available. I click on this. Now it is setting up. Still I see that it's not available. Right? So if I have another log here, then I can see the F result. If I have another result here, another line, because what is happening, it is executing the component that's set and it will coming out of this. It came out of it. There is no value is there. For example, if I add another line, let's go ahead and add another line. Console.log. Console.log is for what?
See the values on console, inspect.
Right.
Return the output.
Component.get. And I wanted to see v.f result. Refresh. Now I'll give 45, 23, calculate. Perfect. V1, V2, V3 values came. Now it's going inside and then it is going inside. F result, okay, why it is not coming? Because F result is not a variable. It's not variable. It is a component attribute variable. This is. Okay, instead of that, if I write component.get. Okay, if I write component.get, because V1, V2 are JavaScript variables. If you have any variable that is a component variable, you have to write this. Now, as soon as the console.log is executed, I can see the output here, result 334. Then I can click on run. 344. Perfect. Now, the next thing is that clear. As soon as I click on this clear, it should clear all the values. It should clear all the values. Simple way in JavaScript is, what I'm going to do is component dot
Set
set v dot f number,
F number, comma.
comma. I'll just give the null. I'll just give null. So S number, last number, and then final result. And basically, simple way is that just setting up them as a null. Refresh. Click on 34, 23, 23, 34. It's just clearing the result. It is not clearing that. Why it is not clearing that?
Case sensitive F number.
24th line SF number.
Ah,
S number.
Ma'am, remove that
Number, ma'am, that one. SF number you put.
24th line. Ma'am. Remove that F. Yes. V dot S.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Let's refresh. Calculate 34, clear, all the values are clear. Now I can enter 56, 45, 35, 56 clear. Okay. So whenever you are doing the coding, do it in the smart way. And one more thing, when we are writing the method, 3 things, comments are important. One is description. And the second one is parameters. And the third one is output. These comments are important in the real time. Description, what is this going to do? Calculate largest number. Space. Calculate largest number. How many parameters it is expecting? Component, event, helper, and what is the output? Output is F result. V dot F result. Now, for example, if I have a here, instead of component, if I have CMP, does it work this logic?
No, ma'am.
No,
No.
What should I need to change?
Everywhere.
you have to
You
change
have to change
component to C.
CMP, CMP dot get.
Everywhere I need to
Every
change.
component into CMP.
Yes, everywhere I need to change component to CMP. Then only it will work. Refresh. 67. Perfect. Clear, clear. Any questions on this requirement, whatever we have done?
So no, do we have a special any library for error handling, or is it we have to do always manually?
Which error handling?
Error handling meaning suppose now 3 numbers have to be entered. It has to be only number, not a string. Such type of error handling I'm saying.
Okay, if it is on the user type, you can have it this required field equal to true, which will make it mandatory. If you want on the JavaScript level, we have a different kind of error handling. That will
So
be
that means there is some library there.
not library.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
What about we have 4 numbers to compare? Then if and else condition, how to use?
Can you repeat that, Akash?
We have a 4 number to compare. that time.
Same thing. If you have another one, you have to use and condition. If you have another one, V1 greater than V4. So that time you will be having 4 else if conditions. If, else if, else if, else. You have to compare the V1 with V2, V3, V4.
Swapna, you mean the try catch? You mean the try catch for error handling in JavaScript?
Yes, we have separately error handling concept.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on if there are no questions. So we'll see components ID. What is the component IDs? We have a component IDs. What is the component IDs? And we'll see local IDs. What is the local IDs? And we'll see what is the global IDs and how to find a component by ID. We'll see component IDs, local IDs, global IDs, how to find a component by ID. And then we will see event in JavaScript and what is a button stateful. These are the one which we are going to see right now. Okay. So component IDs. Component IDs. Basically, component has Lightning Aura component has 2 type of IDs. The first one is a local ID. The second one is a global ID. So component has 2 types of IDs, Lightning Aura, which is a local ID and a global ID. Local ID is nothing but it has to be unique. The local ID has to be unique. And if you think it is a mandatory, yes, it is mandatory. That means when it is a mandatory, I'll show you during the practical. Sometimes it is a mandatory that you have to define the local ID as a mandatory and it has to be unique. Sometimes it is not mandatory that it has to be unique. For example, you have a 3 input fields. For example, you have 3 input fields. Okay. So what will happen if you have a 3 input fields? If you have a 3 input fields, it is possible that all 3 input fields has a same local ID. It is possible. Or else all 3 of them has a unique local ID. Sometimes it is the same, sometimes it is a different based on the requirement, how you are getting it from the client. So it is not mandatory that every time every component or whatever we are writing the Lightning component tags, every component should need to have a unique ID. It's not mandatory. If you think that I need a 3 components should have a same local ID, you can go ahead and use the same local ID. So how do we create a local ID? We create a local ID using the Aura :ID attribute. Every Lightning component, like a Lightning input, Lightning button, and whatever we have discussed so far, the Lightning components. So Lightning input, Lightning button group, right? Lightning icon, everything, all of them has Aura attribute. There is a Aura attribute. So by using this Aura attribute, we will declare the local IDs. For example, if you take the input, Aura :ID equal to INP1. Aura :ID equal to INP1. So Aura ID, it does not support any expression. You cannot write Aura :ID equal to input 1 not equal to 1, some kind of no expressions. It just contains some text. There is a name that we are giving there. Now, first of all, why do I use Aura ID? What is the necessity of Aura ID? I'll explain it. Just hold on. So let's understand this. So Aura ID is nothing but whenever we are declaring the Aura ID, that is nothing but we are declaring the local ID for this particular Lightning component. This particular Lightning component, we are declaring the Aura ID. Right. So for example, let's go to the developer console. So let's take this component. Now we have declared here 3 input fields, right? 3 input fields. For each one of them, I have declared a attribute, and that attribute name I'm giving here. Assume that I have a 10 input fields. Do I need to declare a 10 attributes here? So for whatever we have learned, yes, we have to declare it. But is there any way without declaring the attribute, can I pass my Lightning input value to the controller? Is there any other way? I don't want to use the attribute. I don't want to use the attribute. That means I don't want to use here value. I don't have an attribute. So that means I do not need this value at all. Now, when I do not have an attribute, is there a way that I can pass the value? What are the values are entered here? First number, second number, last number. What are the numbers are entered here? Will I be able to pass that information to controller? Is there a way? There is a way. There is a way. You can use it Aura : ID by declaring the local ID. What you will do is you can pass it. So for example, Aura : ID, I'll say this is input 1 and Aura : ID input 2 and Aura : ID input 3. Right? So now I have declared the Aura : ID. Now what it does, basically whenever we see any component that has a Aura : ID, that means developer has a implemented local ID for each Lightning component. Developer has implemented a local ID for each Lightning component, for each Lightning tag, right? Now everything I have given the Aura ID. Now perfect, in the component I have given the Aura : ID, everything works. Okay, does my component still work? Let's go ahead and see. Click on calculate. What is happening? It's not even getting it. Why it is not even getting it? Click on a source, component, open the component. This is mine. So I have a breakpoint, click on calculate. What is happening here? What is my watch? V1, V2, V3 is coming as a NaN. That means it is not able to identify what is the value entered. Controller is not able to capture the value from the component. It is not able to capture the value from component. Everything has a NaN. NaN is nothing but not available. It's like a null. Right? None of them has any value. Though I have entered, it is not there. Now, how do I capture it? We'll see that. Okay. So before understanding the controller wise, let's understand the global ID also. Global ID is nothing but every component, whether you declare it or not declare it, every component has a unique global ID, which is generated during the runtime. Developer does not declare the global IDs. Developer, like a local IDs, we declare it. Local IDs, we manually declare it. But global ID, what are the global IDs are there, which will be generated automatically from the Salesforce, or whenever we are running the component or whenever we are seeing the output, it is generated by the Salesforce. It is generated by Salesforce. Automatically, it's generated for each Lightning tag or each Lightning component. So whenever it runs, every time you will not see the same global ID. Global ID will be keep on changing. Right now, if you run it, it might be different. Next time when you run the same component, it will be different global ID, because every time during the runtime, it gets generated a new ID and assigned to that Lightning tag. The global ID is assigned to there. And we cannot rely on the global ID because every time it changes. Whenever you run it, it changes. So global ID is nothing but ID equal to input -60. Now, where can I see that? We are not declaring it here. There is no way we cannot declare the global ID here. So how can I see the information? So when you go here, right click. Okay, so right click, inspect, it goes to the element. See here, input -1. There is a ID, there is a global ID gets generated. If I click on this, inspect, there is another ID it gets generated. Okay, so everywhere I have the input ID 3. Now next time I might be seeing the different. ID equal to input :3. Sometimes if you see input -609, sometimes you see input -39. It's based on the how load is there on the component. Okay, so every time the global ID is get changed, this ID is generated automatically. We will not be declaring that ID. It is generated by automatically during the runtime. So this is global ID. The global ID we won't be mentioning manually. So there is no way we can mention it. But in case, okay, in real time, we do not use the global ID. In real time, I have not used it anywhere, the global ID. But in case, if there is a requirement, if you need to find out, or if you wanted to capture what is the global ID in the JavaScript, what you can do is you can use the get global ID function. There is a JavaScript function called get global ID function. Using that, you can capture it. But I have not seen, maybe 1% you might be seeing it, but that is very rare. But in the real time, we will not be using the global ID. We will be all playing with the local ID. Now, this is what local ID, global ID. Now, how can I capture the local ID value in the component? Local ID value in the component. So there is we have to find the component by local ID. Now, how can I retrieve a component by local ID in JavaScript code? So we have in Aura component, we are using Aura:ID, right? So this Aura:ID is to add a local ID for maybe lightning input. Right now we have taken as a lightning input, right? For lightning input, we have added the local ID. So if I wanted to capture, so like this, I have added. Now, if I wanted to capture this, how can I find it? We have a function or method called find method. Like get, set, we have also have find. Like others, component.get, component.set. Also, we have a component.find. We use component.find for whenever we wanted to know, we wanted to find what is the component. What is the component for this particular local ID? If you wanted to know that, then we will use component.find. Then we will mention the local ID name. What are the local ID name is there, which is Aura:ID equal to what are the name that we have given here, that the same name we have to give it here. If I give our component.find, then if I give the local ID number, that means I'm able to find the component. I'm able to find the component. I can capture the component in the controller. I can capture the component in the controller. So find returns the different type of values based on the, like example, if the local ID is a unique, that means if I have a 3 input fields, if I have 3 input fields, each 3 input fields have a unique Aura ID, unique local ID. In that case, what will happen? It will, if I say component.find and if I give a local ID name, what will it do? It will give me the component. Which component is this local ID is mentioned? You will get it. For example, all 3 of them has the same local ID. Then what will happen? It will return an array. It will return array of the component. If it is a single one, if you have a unique, it will return the single component information. But many of them, like a multiple component has the same local ID, then what will happen? If you write a component.find and if you give that local ID, it will return an array of the component, the list of the components it will give. In case if there is no matching local ID, it will return undefined. You have not written the Aura ID here. In the Aura component, you have not declared the Aura ID. You have not declared the local ID, but you are trying to use the component.find in the JavaScript controller. So what will happen? It will say that there is no Lightning tag or there is no Lightning component which has this particular local ID. It will say undefined. It will say undefined. Is that clear? So let's go ahead and see. Now,
But what's the use of that Aura column ID?
rather than declaring the attribute, you can just pass it using the Aura column ID. If you have a 10 input fields or 20 input fields, okay? And there is a use, I'll let you know for the buttons, okay? There is actual use case. Let's see it later.
Ma'am, can you give same local ID to the different fields?
Yes, you can give, because whenever you are running the component, it will, during the runtime, it will check only that component. It will not go to other component.
Okay.
So for now, this is not going to work out. Component.get is not going to work out. So what I'll do is I'll comment this. Okay. So what I'll do is var v1 equal to component dot
Fine.
find.
CMP.find.
CMP dot find. Yes. In the find, what do I need to mention? Local ID name. Local ID name. Now, before declaring it, let's see what is it is. Okay, let's see what is it is printing. Console.log. Okay, so find output. I'll print it on the starting of this. And I'll take out this. For now, I'll uncomment this. Okay, now I wanted to see what is the output of this. When we were using the component.get, we were getting the actual value that is entered on the field, on the Lightning input. Now what it gives, if I write a component.find, what is the value it will give? So let's go ahead and see. Let's go to the application. Okay, so console, refresh. 56, 34, 23, click on calculate. Console, what is the issue here?
Capital C maybe.
Refresh once again. Okay, so 44, 34, 23, click on calculate. That's okay. Now what is the find output has given? Find output has given so many values. It gave so many values, right? Handler is there, value handler, provider, destroy, focus, get event, get so many data it has given. It contains component.find contains everything. Everything of your component. Everything has component. It has a global ID and it has a local ID and it has a get. Now, what do I need it? If I wanted to get the value, I need to use the get function. If I use get function, basically component.find contains whether your component is a focused, whether your component is a valid, whether your component has some validation, whether your component has a blur or any handler or any global ID or any local ID, anything that you have it. Okay, so everything it contains. But if you wanted to get actual value of the Aura ID, so what you have to use is you have to use component.find, give the Aura ID name, then get mention here b.value. Give me the value of this particular component. Give me the value of whatever the component is there. Give me that component value. Let's go ahead, refresh that. $45, $34, $20. Let's click on calculate. Now it is giving me the value. The first one I'm capturing it value. So that means component.find returns only the component. It does not return the value. Component.find returns the component. What is that component? What are the features of the component? How the component is implemented? What is that focus? Everything. It gives all the features of the component. It returns the component. Which component? What is that component? Everything it will return. But if you need a value, you have to use method or function called, there is a get function. There is get function we have to use. In the get function, we have to write v.value. In case if you want, you have to write get for any component. This is the standard get get v.value. Right? So for if I go to component, now what I'll do is I'll comment out this. Now it is giving me all the value. Perfect. So I'll say I'll remove this. Now var v1 equal to parse int. Within the parse int, what I'll do, I'll use component.find get function. This is the 2, this is the 3. Input 2, input 3. Let's click on save. Let's go to the refresh. Let's click on this, calculate. Okay. So it will go down. Yes, V1 I'm getting it, V2 I'm getting, V3 I'm getting it. So perfect. The values are, controller is getting the values. Now click on run. Why the result is not getting?
F result attribute is not there.
Oh, we have commented out. Okay, we need that because it is displaying here output. Click on refresh. Now it is getting the values. Calculate 354. Now this scenario, whatever we have seen the scenario, it is simple. Like whatever the attribute was there, it was doing perfectly fine. Our ID is also doing the same thing. Now let me give you the real-time scenario. Real-time scenario is, let's take yesterday's example. Yesterday, I gave one of the requirement where you have a add button and subtract button and multiplication button and the division button. And then, yeah, these 4 you have. right? So what you are doing it for every button, you are writing a one function, right? Every button you are writing a function in the JavaScript, except one line in every method, right? Only the line difference is here you need to add a plus, here you need to add a minus, here you need to add a division, or here you need to add a multiplication. Except this logic, whatever rest of the logic is there, is it same or not? Whoever is implemented yesterday's one.
Yes.
It is same, right? So that means you are repeating the logic. You are unnecessarily writing the 4 methods there, which has the same logic. But whereas only one line is a different, which is a what are the first number plus second number.
Calculation part.
Yes, everything is the same. Everything is the same except the one line. So why to write an unnecessary code again? Why do we need to write that logic? Can I not decrease that instead of me writing again and again same logic? So this is how the real-time scenario. If you are writing like that, so what you can do is you can add here. So let's comment out the last number. I'm implementing the yesterday's requirement where it has a first number and the second number. And then buttons are, let's assume it is a add button. It will be there, this one. Okay, I'll add another button. Lightning, colon, button, label equal to add, on click equal to exclamation C dot handle add. Okay, so for example, I'm going to implement it for subtract, multiplication, division. Sub, multiplication, division. Okay, for everyone, I'm calling the same. Let's take the method handle calculate. So I'm taking the handle cal for everybody. What are the 4 buttons are there? For 4 buttons, I'm taking the same method. For 4 buttons, I'm taking the same method. But what I'll do is I'll declare Aura ID here. Aura ID equal to, I'll say add. Aura ID equal to, let's say sub. Aura ID equal to multiplication. Aura ID equal to division. All 4 are calling the same method. Whether I click on a add button, whether I click on a subtract button, whether I click on a multiplication or division, any button I click out of these 4, add, sub, multi, these 2 are different. Okay, what are the button I click? Add, sub, mul, div, what are the button I click on it? It is going to call only same method. It will call same method. Let's add the variant. Okay, so now I'm going to implement this logic in the controller. Between each function, you have to add comma, right? You have to add comma. Then function name, function, and then now. The logic that I'm going to implement is similarly, I have to capture the first of all, what is the first value and the second value, which is the same, which is the same. I'm getting the V1, V2. Now I'll declare another variable here to store the result. Let's take our value. This is another variable which I'm declaring it. Now, what I need to do is I need to find out, first of all, I need to capture these buttons. Whatever here it is there. Basically, my controller should understand whether the user is clicking on add button or sub button or mul button, div button, right? Out of these four, which button is entered? My controller should need to understand. Everybody is calling the same method. Only the different is Aura ID. But how does the controller listen? How does controller listen? There is an event that should listen whenever I click on add. Okay, when I click on add, so that means controller should listen and the button is clicked by the user. How can we capture in the JavaScript? So we have something called in JavaScript event. There is a concept called event. In Java, that is an API basically, that is an interface. That is a pre-built JavaScript API is providing it, which is called event. When we say event, in real time, everybody will be using the event. Event is an interface, represents an event which takes a place in DOM. That means on the component, on the user interface, whatever the events are happening, event interface take that information. DOM is nothing but it is whatever you are doing on the component, whatever you are doing on the component, whether you are clicking on the button or whether you are clicking on interface, or whether you are clicking on the action or whether you are clicking on change event, right? Whatever the actions that are happening on it, whatever the actions are happening on it, it will take all the events, it will listen to all the events. So here DOM is nothing but document object model. Document object model. So whatever on the model level, on the user interface, whether you are clicking on button, whether you are changing the value, or you are clicking on the radio button checkbox, whatever is happening it, everything, this event is going to take that. Whatever is happening on the DOM, the event is going to capture the information. So as soon as you click on a button, there is an event that is going to trigger. So basically what is happening, as soon as you click on a button or as soon as user click on any action, the event gets triggered. The event gets triggered. So examples like clicking on any button. You are clicking on the calculate button or you are clicking on add button, or else you are changing the value. You are changing as soon as, even for the input field also. For input field also, it is changing whenever you are changing the value. That means there is a on change event is called. There is a on change event gets called. And whenever you are clicking on a button or whenever you are clicking on a radio option, there is a radio button or checkbox, anything you are clicking on it, definitely there is at the backend, the event is going to trigger. Who will be doing that? We have a JavaScript event that is always listened to. Whether you write an event code in the JavaScript or not, it doesn't matter. By default, the browser is keep on listening to whatever users are doing on the UI. Browsers are always listening to whatever the users are doing on the UI. Tapping a keyboard or writing a number, how many numbers you are writing, everything is captured there. So event contains, there are different methods we have. Event has different methods. By using this, methods or by using the event, what we will do is we will listen to the user input and we will communicate with the component. JavaScript is going to listen to the event. Right. So here, when I'm clicking on this button or calculate button on the browser itself, I'm not writing any code for the JavaScript, event JavaScript. I'm not returning anything. We have just written something, some logic we have written. I have not written event dot some get method. I have not written anything, right? But browser, this browser, whatever you are doing it here, you are entering it, changing the value. Whenever you do something, the browser always listen to the whatever the actions are happening on the user, by the user, whatever the actions are happening, everything is gets stored, or events will be always listening to that. There is always the integration runs in the backend on the browser. So what we are doing here, whenever is browser capturing that information, right? We have in the code level, we have a component and we have a JavaScript. This is a JavaScript and this is a component. So what JavaScript does, JavaScript communicates to this event. JavaScript communicates this event. It says that give me whatever the events are happening. You are listening to that events. I have a 10 buttons here. Out of 10 buttons, which button is entered by the user? If you heard anything, just pass it to me. So JavaScript will ask and event gets passed here. And as soon as JavaScript get the information about the event, what are the events are happening, it will capture this and it will, we have to manipulate that information and send it to component. See, this is the component, this is the event happened. I asked the browser to give me the what is the event that happened. So I got this information from the event browser, from the JavaScript API, and we did a calculation. And based on that information, this is the output. So this is the output that I'm giving to the component. So this everything happens at the backend. Right? So now, how can in the JavaScript, how can I call the event? How do I know that, how to call that? So in JavaScript, we have in the event, we have a method called getSource. There is a method called getSource. That means give me all the information, whatever the information that you are listening to that, give me all the information. So basically event.getSource. Event.getSource. It returns the source component that fired an event. Whatever the event that is fired, for which component, which lightning tag, the firing happened on the which component or which lightning tab did it happen? It gives the source information. When I say event.getSource, then it will give me only the component information. Component information is nothing but right now I have a add, division, multiplication, subtraction, right? These all buttons are there. Which are the button is clicked? It will give you, okay, add button is clicked. Add button is clicked. Then after that, I need to, so event.getSource is nothing but returns the component that is fired. Then after that, if I wanted to know what is the local ID for that particular component, now the add button is clicked. Who will give the add button is clicked? Event.getSource will give me the, okay, this is the add button is clicked, is provided by getSource. From that getSource, I need to get the local ID. Okay, now you have given me the source. There is an add button, you are saying it. Perfect, that is fine. Now give me one more information, just pass me the local ID, then I'll take care of in JavaScript. Now I need not to talk to event every time. JavaScript will talk to the event only one time. Because if JavaScript keep on talking to the events, then there is a lot of performance issues we might see. So we might talk the JavaScript, our JavaScript controller has to talk to the event, okay, only one time. Give me this information then stop calling the event. So that means give me the local ID. Now I'll take care of from there. So in that component, so event.getSource is nothing but component, whether the add component or a subtract component or multiplication component or a division component. Give me that component. And in that component, what is the local ID is there? Give me the local ID. Now I'll take care of rest of the part. That means JavaScript will take care of the rest of the part. Any questions here? Event.getSource, event.getSource.getLocal ID. In real time, these are mostly we will be using it. Now, let me show you that. So for example, right now, what I'll do is where I'll store that information where EVT equal to event.getSource. I'm capturing the information. I'm trying to talk to the JavaScript API. Which event is clicked on it? Which event is clicked on it? So getSource is going to give me the information. Now, if you wanted to see what are the information that is given by getSource, console.log. So let's say getSource. I'll say EVT. Yes. EVT, 5 minutes. Okay. EVT.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll give EVT here, event.getSource. Okay. So this is the getSource. I'm printing the EVT. Now let me show you this value.
Console spelling mistake.
Console.
Console. Okay, let's clear this. What is happening? Line number 62.
Ma'am, extra comma I think last.
In one more try.
In 50.
Control S. Let's save it. Now this is also, let's save. Let's refresh. Now let's click on inspect, console, clear. I'll give you the 34.3 and click on add button. CMPA. Which line? Handle call. Okay, so let's refresh. So 34.23 add getSource. GetSource gives all this because event heard these all information. Now we are interested only get local ID. Okay, so get local ID. These are the information which I'm going to get it. Now once I receive this event, so what I'll do, where I'll take something, my ID equal to, I'll say EVT dot get local ID, or else if this is why to write unnecessary another line. You want this get local ID. Perfect. Now let's see. Refresh. Now click on add. Click on sub SB. Click on mul ML. Click on div DV. What is giving here? Local ID values it is giving. Local ID values it is giving. Whenever I click on add, it is giving me the add. Whenever I click on sub SB. Whenever I click on multiplication ML. Whenever I click on div DV. Right? So where we have written those, here it is, our ID. Now, instead of me writing the multiple times same logic, now I have button. I'm able to listen to the event, which are the button is clicked. Whichever the button is clicked, I'm able to listen. Now everything, all 4 button logic, I can write it only one place. EBT equal to AD if it is a add button clicked, or else if it is else if it is a subtract button is clicked. Now else if it's not a subtract, it's they have clicked on the multiplication ML, or they have clicked on the division dv, I guess. Yeah, dv, right? Or else you can write it just else condition, because that is the last one. Now simply what I can do here, r value equal to v1 plus v2, r value equal to v1 minus v2, r value equal to multiplication. This is the division. Now finally, I can set the, once it is everything, all the if conditions are over, what I can do is, I can say component dot set. Why I'm writing, can I write it here? You can write it here. But again, you are repeating the component dot set here, component dot set here, component dot set, component dot set. Or else, okay, if you wanted to write, you can write it. There is not an issue. So instead of declaring the another variable, if you wanted to write component dot set,
Ma'am, CMP dot set.
yeah, CMP dot set. CMP dot v dot, what is the value? F result. F result, and then give the value v1 plus v2. Same thing, you can apply it for the else if, and then component dot set v1 v2, component dot set v1 by v2. Perfect. So now let's go refresh. Now I'll give 34, 5, add 39, subtract 29, multiplication 170, everything is working. Division 6.8, right? All 4 of them, I'm just calling only one method, handle call. This handle call is going to work for add, sub, mul, division. Now I need not to repeat this logic. What are the logic is there, which I need to declare the variable and everything. I need not to write separately. Now here, what is the description of this? Output. So description is simple mathematics logic, maths logic. Or let's say arithmetic logic, whatever you can write. Parameters, CMP, event, helper, output, F result. Right? Any questions? Get source, get local ID.
How should we write component dot set for all these things in a single line?
If you wanted to write it in single line, declare the variable, store the variable first, and then finally write the output here.
Okay.
Ma'am, in real time, which one is recommended one, ma'am? By using attribute or IDs, local IDs?
Whoever the new to Lightning Aura, they usually use Lightning Aura. Whoever is experts, they use Aura ID. And they will play with these events. Whoever is having more than 5 years, they will always play with these events. So most of the coding you will see event.
Okay.
Any questions on this before I move on this slide? Okay, let's move on. Okay, button stateful. Button stateful. So button stateful is whenever you observe in the Salesforce. So whenever you observe something in Salesforce, let's go to the Salesforce. Let's click on opportunities. Click on any opportunity. Now, have you observed this? The follow button. This is a button stateful. This is button stateful. So what will happen here is, if I click on this, right now it is showing plus follow. As soon as I click on this, the name of it is changing, following, and the icon also get changed. If I hover it, it is changing the cross button unfollow, right? First time it is showing the plus follow. As soon as I click on it, the button name is changing and the icon is also changing. And whenever I hover, it is changing the another value. So based on the action, the button itself is changing, which is called button stateful. Button stateful. So we have a button stateful Lightning component. Okay, why we use it? The toggle between the states. If I wanted to change the states based on the button click, right? If I wanted to change that, you can change it. Attributes are label when off. Okay, whenever the label is off, that time what is the text to be displayed inside the button? If it is a on, what is the text to be displayed? When label is off is nothing but this is the off. Okay, right now it is off. So when it is off, what is the value that needs to be displayed inside this button? If it is a on, what is the value that needs to be displayed? Right? If I hover it, what is the value it should display? And what are the icons what it should display when it is off? What is the icon that needs to be displayed when it is on? Right? When I hover it, what is the icon needs to be displayed? And what is the state of the button, which shows whether the button has been selected or not. Right? On click of this, what should happen? So basically this is when it is a off, what is the text needs to be displayed? Icon name when it is a off. The attribute is what is the icon needs to be displayed when it is off. If it is a on, what is the label? What is the value needs to be displayed here? And then what is the icon needs to be displayed? And when we hover it, what is the label to be displayed? And what is the icon to be displayed? Mandatory attributes are label when off, label when on. Right, let me go ahead and show you that. Let's take a new Lightning component. LC button stateful. Click on submit. Now Aura component, Now, let's use the lightning card. Title equal to button stateful. Okay, inside that, I'm going to use lightning colon button stateful. Button stateful. Now inside this button stateful, I have a different attributes. I have different attributes. The first one is label when off, W capital, O capital. And next one is label when off, when on. And the next one is label when hover. Okay, and after that we have a icon. Icon name when off. And the next one we have icon when it is on. Icon when it is hover. Okay, and then state. Let's take a state and another attribute on click. Okay, these are the attributes for the button stateful. When it is a hop off, then I wanted to show the follow button. When it is on, then I wanted to show the label value as following. When it is, if I hover, okay, that time I wanted to show unfollow. Okay, now next icon. I can take any icon. So right now, if you go here, if it is a off, it is showing the plus button. So I'll take add button, utility, colon add. And if I select that, if I select this, there is a checkbox it is showing. So check, that is a check. And if I hover it, there is a cross mark. Okay, I'll take the utility, colon, close. Add icon, check icon, close icon. Now for the state, I need to show the state. Okay, for that, let me declare the attribute. Aura colon, attribute, name equal to, let's take B state, and then type equal to Boolean. Now, in case if you wanted to default, by default, you wanted to give some value. Okay, here we can use another attribute called default. I want by default, this attribute should be false. Now, this variable, I'll give it here in the state. Colon, v dot, whatever the attribute name. On click of it, I wanted to call the controller c dot handle click. Button stateful. What is the issue here? Lightning colon.
Ma'am, on
button.
closing tag. On close.
Okay, perfect. Now we have this button. Now let's go ahead and include this in the Lightning application. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy the component name. Go to the application. C column. my component name. Now let's go back to the same Aura component. We have here button is stateful. Okay, title I have given button stateful. Title. Okay, button stateful. But when I click on it, is there anything happening? It is not happening because we have not written the handle click. We have not written the logic in the handle click. So when we click on the handle click, okay, now on click of that button, what I wanted to do is whatever this attribute is there. Okay, so now here I have an attribute called button state, right? So what I'm doing, this is a Boolean value. By default, I'm giving it as a false. Now, as soon as I click on this, I wanted to make this button true. I wanted to set this button true. There are multiple ways you can do it. One, you can directly set component.set v.bState, comma, true. Okay. So comma true. This is the simplest way we can do it. Sometimes what other developer does is they will store first the value, whatever the value that I'm getting it. Okay, there is a V1, what are the value that I'm getting it? First, I wanted to get the value of B state. So there are few developers, few members, how they do is component.get. First, get me the value. First, get me the value. Whatever the value is there, whatever the value is there. Now change the value. Now change the value opposite one. Now here it is a false. Then this will not be one, is nothing but true. If it is a true, it will false. If I do like this, what will happen? Always it is a true. So instead of that, what I am doing is get me the what are the value is there, the Boolean value, whether it is a false or true. First get me the value. Then change the opposite value, which I am adding here not. I am adding the not value here. Not is nothing but it is simply like we have false. If you are getting a false, false equal to, for example, if you have a not false, what is this means? Not false means it is a true. Not true means equal to false. Similarly this. So you need not to worry about hard coding here true. Because sometimes it happens is by default you are setting it here true. Now here also you are setting it true. So that time your code will not work. Instead of that, what you can do is first get me the whatever the value is there for the B state and change that to the opposite value. If it is a false, change it to true. If it is a true, change it to false. Let's click on save. Component, save it. Click on refresh. Okay, so now follow. It's changed to icon is changed as well as the label is also changed. If I hover, it takes some time. If I hover, it is showing the unfollow. Right, as soon as I click on unfollow, it is changing back to the follow. I have not written any logic Logic itself in the controller is I'm changing the value false to true, true to false. Right? If I say always true, it might not work. If I say always true, it might not work, because whenever it is true, if I again click on that button, again it will become true. It won't become false. For that, you need to write another logic. If it is a false, then true. If it is a true, then false. Instead of that, what I'm doing is I'm getting the current value, take the current value, change the opposite value of the Boolean value. Right? Follow. And if I hover it, then it is unfollowing it. So where I have written this all follow, unfollow, everything, I have written everything on the button stateful. On the component level, I have written here when it is a off, what is the follow, and when it is a off, what is the icon. And when it is on, what is the label name and what is the icon. When I hover it, what is the value and what is the icon. And what is the state of it, whether it is a true, false, what is the state of it. And based on the click, I'm changing the state of the button. I'm changing the state of the button. On click on that button, I'm changing the state of the button. So right now I'm toggling between the two. Now I'm changing the state of the button. Now if I hover again, I'm changing the state of the button. Right? Any questions on the button stateful? Any questions on the button stateful?
Ma'am, can I explain state once?
State. State, I'm changing the state of the button. For example, if I don't write this, let's take out this attribute. Let's go to the Aura component. Application, let's refresh the application. Okay, I'll click on this. Is my state changing?
No.
So state is the one which will define what is the state of the button, which shows whether it is being selected or not. The state of the button, it is going to change, show that. The state is the state of the button, which shows whether the button is selected and does it change the button label icon. Though we have written here in the label when off, when on, when hover, when off, everything we have written, but I have not written the state. It doesn't work. Because state is the one which will show what is the current state of the button.
Okay.
Whether it is selected or not. But these two are mandatory when label is off, when it is off, when it is on. These two are mandatory. Okay, any questions? Okay, so let's move on. What did we learn today?
Our ID.
Local ID.
Local ID,
Global
global
IDs.
ID, find component by ID.
Find
component by
Event.
ID.
Event in JavaScript
Event.
APIs.
Yes.
Button
Stateful.
Now questions. What are different type of component IDs?
local ID,
Local
global
and
ID.
global
and
ID.
global IDs.
Local ID and global ID. How to declare a local ID?
Oh,
Aura ID.
Aura colon ID.
ID
ID
equal to
equal to
name.
Where do we need to display this? Where do we need to define this? Component or JavaScript?
Component.
Component.
JavaScript.
No, it's a
The control.
component. This is wrong.
Component. Yes.
It should be in the component. Where we will be declaring it in the component. What is event in JavaScript API?
An action that will be performing.
Yeah, so what are the events that
Event interface represents
Event
plus in the DOM.
DOM.
Yeah, what are the events that are happening on the DOM? It is always listens.
mouse event change.
Sorry?
Clicking on mouse button on changes by using example.
Yes. On change, clicking on button.
Any action that can be performed on DOM.
Yes.
Swapna, one question, checkbox actions can be covered with events. Only button.
Everything. What are the radio button you are clicking on it? That is also you can capture it.
Actually, I tried Swapna when you gave this true or false at Java last week, one assignment. I tried with JavaScript function event. I just tried to update with event function. But checkbox, I got error.
Okay, we'll see it next time. We have not covered the radio checkbox in Lightning. It is covered.
Tried just by googling I tried, but I got error that time, so that's why I have asked it now.
Yeah. Now, what is controller? What is JavaScript controller?
To handle the functions. It will come in.
Framework for works on client side and server side.
Right. So that supports the client side JavaScript and server side controller. It's a framework, supports client side and server side. How to find the component in JavaScript?
Component dot find function.
Component dot find. Okay, this is the requirement. First requirement is implement button stateful as well as button group. And the menu, submenu, put any buttons here. Menu divider, you can add whatever is there here. Okay, so one is button stateful and then button group. Within the button group, again, you have a menu button. So when I click on this, it should show some button, at least 3 buttons show it. Okay, next one, implement a Lightning component called LC_calculator one method. So that means whatever I have given yesterday's assignment, continue that, write the different method. This is again separate component, which is a LC_calculator one method. So whenever I click on any button, it should execute only one method. If I click on add, sub, mul, div, whatever the buttons I click, everything should point to the only one method. Next one is just implement a user interface. Just implement a UI. I don't want the logic right now. Just implement a calculator UI where it has all the numbers, right? All the plus, minus, equal, clear, these options are there. These all are basically buttons, okay? Just implement the UI. If you are able to do the logic, perfectly fine. If you are able to do 1 + 3, if it is giving the result, as soon as I click on equal to, if it is giving the result, perfectly fine. Otherwise, we will see it later. So for the new members, if you think it is difficult, just implement the calculator UI. So my requirement is just implement the UI, which is called LC_sample calculator. Any questions? In requirement 1, 2, 3, any questions? Okay. So these are the trial heads. Are you guys are doing the trial head?
Few I completed.
Okay.
Few.
Okay, that's all for today's session. If no questions, thank you.